new student loan scheme will begin in August. Great news for many, especially those struggling to afford university. But as always, the devil is in the details. How do you apply? Who qualifies? Is there interest? When do you start to pay back? Because you don't want to finish school and still can't find a job and start to begin thinking about how to pay or repay a loan. So is there a system put in place that will ensure that this loan is paid? We have a lot of graduates roaming the streets without jobs. Now imagine that I go to take a loan while in school, hoping that when I finish I get a job and pay, and then I leave the education, the university, the four walls of university, whatever institution it is, and I don't get a job. What happens? These are the real questions we need to, ask, because we don't just want to rush and start to create another generation of debt. We need proper structure, fair conditions, and real follow-up, not just, the lunch and forget scheme that we tend to always do with this part of the world. So, what are the structures that has been put in place to enable that the students pay these loans? That's the big question, and I feel like you want to drop your thoughts too. If you think thinking like I am thinking, please let me hear from you as you communicate with us on our socials this morning at Global TV NG. Okay, so right about now we'll go for a very short break, and when we come back, we'll come back with the newspaper review. Of course, this is that segment where we get to see in details the happenings in the country. Please don't go anywhere. Global TV will be right back. Alright, welcome back, and you just tuned in. This is Global Morning, and I still remain your host, Priscilla Obasi. Right about now, we're in that segment we call the newspaper review segment, where we get to tell you about the latest happenings, of course, in details, right? So, on the newspaper review segment this morning, we begin with the Nation News paper. What is happening? Let's start with the first news here on page 4 that says Lagos LG poll, APC eyes clean sweep amidst low turnout. Sanwo-Olu hails voters for peaceful conduct. Just like I was saying, I mean, we want a new Nigeria, we want a new nation. We cannot give up at this moment. The moment you decide to Welcome back. We apologize for that break in transmission. Now, before we went to that break, we were on the newspaper review segment, and we started with the Nation newspaper. So the first story here says, Lagos local government poll, APC eyes clean sweep amidst low turnout. APC eyes clean sweep amidst low turnout. So I think that's APC eyes clean sweep amidst low turnout. So I was saying, when we decide to become apathy, when we decide to not, exercise our rights to go and vote, we easily give this the people you call the bad people. I'm not trying to say that anyone's a bad person right now in this context, but the moment you say I'm tired of voting, Nigerians need to understand this. The moment you say I'm tired of voting, you make it easy for those people that you're tired of to take over, to continue to remain in power. So we cannot win this battle of having a new Nigeria by folding our hands or by giving up. It's a consistent battle. It's a consistent effort to keep showing up. Do you understand? So please, I'm appealing to Nigerians. Don't give up. Don't get tired. 2027 is just around the corner, and we cannot afford to give up at this moment. Okay, so we see that APC sweeps clean, and it's a low turnout, and Sanwo-Olu hails victims for a peaceful conduct. Now it's something to I mean, what do we expect? People do not turn out to vote. It can only go peaceful. But all the same, we appreciate the citizens of Lagos State for their peaceful turnout. Now let's go to the next news that says on page and 6 says, why Niger Delta is critical to national growth. That is coming from Tinubu. Why Niger Delta is critical to national growth by Tinubu. And there's a writer there that says, directs commission to complete all abandoned projects. You want to find out more about the story? Get yourself the Nation's newspaper this morning, and you will be able to read more. Now the next big story there says, on defection, it says, I'm still consulting Osun PDP ready to follow me at Adeleke. I am still consulting Osun PDP ready to follow me. Now there have been rumors about Governor Adeleke defecting to the APC. We don't know how true that is, but I guess he's trying to re-emphasize, his stance on this very story. There's a writer there that says, governors meet chiefs, cabinet, federal and state legislators, others, and Eno formally takes over APC structure in Akwa Ibom. We don't want a one-party system. If we have a one-party system, our democracy is dead. So whatever we can do to make that not happen, please, for the betterment and the growth of Nigeria, a one-party system is not what we want at this moment, please. Let's go to the next story that says on page 5, opposition coalition, good development for democracy. That's coming from Baja Biamilia. And there's a writer that says it will prevent emergence of one-party states. You can see there, I just talked about that, says it will prevent emergence of a one-party state. So I think Baja Biamilia here is trying to commend or trying to support the opposition coalition. He's saying it's a good development for democracy. That emphasizes what I just said about the one-party system. And then this is the next story there that says on page 7, Constitution review, House panel promises inclusive process. A writer there says states should control resources in their domain. That is from Sani. House panel promises inclusive process. Okay. All hands across, fingers are crossed, looking at the ongoing constitution review. Let's hope that everyone is carried along, and at the end of the day, we have Nigerians, a larger part of us, majority of Nigerians smile to whatever amendment is going to be done. And another story there says NDDC at 25, the NDDC celebrating 25 years. Well, you want to find out about all of the stories, get yourself Nation newspaper. There's the last story that says that Nigeria, Brazil sign landmark health sector pact at BRICS summit. Nigeria, Brazil sign landmark health sector pact at BRICS summit. Okay, right about now, go to the next story on the next newspaper, which is the Punch newspaper. Let's start with the first story on page 25. It says, federal government on the fire as NNPC confirms refineries not working. Who is setting federal government on fire? I wonder. Federal government on fire as NNPC confirms refineries not working. Is NNPC not part of the federal government? Who exactly setting it on fire? What do they mean? You want to find out more by getting yourself a copy of the Punch newspaper this morning. The next story on page 8 here says, Lagos local government polls, opposition cries foul over APC's victory boost. What do we expect? Nigerians are tired. We are beginning to go apathy because we feel our votes do not count anymore. APC opposition cries foul. So I think it's time for the opposition party to get to work. It's time to begin to work because, trust me, you need a lot of energy. You need a lot of you just need to boost the morals of Nigerians at this point to go and participate in another election. There's a lot of work to do if we must get it right. So this is the work of every political party that wants to confront the ADC in 2027 and even in minor elections. Please get to work already. Let's go to the next story there. It says, that's coming from Labour Party. No date yet for NEC to decide Obi's fate. No date yet for NEC to decide Obi's fate. Okay. All fingers are crossed to see what comes out of Labour Party saga with Obi. Over the previous weeks, we've seen them come out to call to say to Obi to tender his official resignation, and frowning at the coalition movement coming from Obi. But they are saying here that there's no date yet, so I don't know, maybe there is some kind of reconciliation going on. I really don't know. You want to find out more about that story by getting yourself a copy of the Punch newspaper, and that very story is on page 6. Now the next story here says, on page 6, reps move to strip president of power to appoint INEC chairman. Interesting. I'm sure a lot of Nigerians will smile at this, but I don't know. Should the fate of the INEC, or should this be a norm? Like, why should the president decide who becomes the INEC chairman? I mean, a president that is still trying to contest for elections, they're still trying to come back again, to the government. And Nigerians is saying, I don't think it's okay. We don't think it's okay for the president to decide the fate. So who decides the fate of the INEC chairman? Should it be our senators, that are representing us? Who, I'm sure the reps, they have their reasons for this, and I'm sure a lot of Nigerians would also approve this. Well, we want to find out more about that by getting yourself a copy of the Punch newspaper. Let's go to the next story here, and that is coming from page 26 and 27. Road rage. How unruly drivers assault traffic officials to avoid penalties. How unruly drivers assault traffic officials to avoid penalties. Okay, now this is due for discussion. Yes, I really feel it's due for discussion. Who is at fault? Some of these drivers, most times, are actually at fault, but some of the times too, the road officials, I kind of feel like, most times when I'm traveling around the axis and I experience all the holdups around that axis, I'm wondering, where are these VIOs? Because I don't get to see them there, really. Sometimes when you really need to see them, you don't see them, and then they cluster themselves around a particular place that really do not need lots of officials. So what is the work of this road officials? Where are they supposed to be per time, per season, per everything? I don't know, but I mean, everyone should put hands together to make Nigeria work, right? Everyone has a part to play. As a road user, it's your obligation, it's your responsibility to keep to the rules and the regulation that governs the road as you make use of that road. And then to our officials, our road officials, I think it's time to really be purposeful. Really, it is time to be purposeful. Be where you are needed. You don't have to. I don't know what the communication system is like amongst them. Most times it looks like there is no smooth communication. We can actually do better. So I'm not faulting anybody at this point, but I think it's time to call everyone to be responsible, whether you're a road user or you are a road official. Now let's go to the next story on
Still on the Punch newspaper. That is the big story there on page 4. It says APC ADC coalition scramble for Kano's mega votes. There are two riders there. The first one says party stewards acknowledge ex-Kano governor's influence, confirms consultations. And the next rider there says NNPP factions differ on alliance move.
So it looks like all eyes are on Kano State
For the 2027 elections,
people have been expecting, the former governor being Kwankwaso to, maybe join the coalition or something. But
I think he has stayed with the NNPP, or I don't know.
let's see what happens. A lot of things can still unfold before 2027. And then on APC, I don't know what they want to bring out. I don't know what surprise they have for us for 2027 regarding the North what do I call it now?
Votes, not in votes, because the reality is, the Kano State has the tendency, of course, it has the power to give them the votes, a good number of votes. So all eyes on Kano, and you want to find out more about the story by getting yourself a Punch newspaper. That very story is on page 4. Let's see what they have to say there. So let's go to the next story here. That is on page 16 and 17. It says floodwaters force Makoko's children out of school amidst disease fears. Floodwater force Makoko's children out of school amidst disease fears. That's a sad one there. We don't like to see things like this. Our children, I don't want to hear any story of children being out of school, because maybe not that well, that's particular to the FCT, but I really don't like to hear stories about children being out of school. It's not good for us as a nation. Well, we hope that is resolved in no time. Now let's go to the next story. In page 21, it says I share water with canal donkeys traveling through deserts. That is Libya returning. Wow, that's interesting. I share waters with canals, donkeys traveling through deserts. Why do the people just decide to just leave? I know it's people are looking for greener pastures, but when you're not sure whether the pasture is actually green, or your route or your fate, why do you take such move without proper planning? I really don't understand how people travel out of the country and go out there to suffer. It's not better to be at home, and where you know that home is home. There's no place like home, Well, you want to find out more about that story by getting yourself a Punch, the Punch newspaper this morning. The very last story there says PDP will never die, and that is coming from Southwest Chair. You find that story on page 6 of the Punch newspaper. Now let's go to the next paper, and that is the Tribune newspaper. The first story on the Tribune newspaper is Tinubu gives reasons Niger Delta is critical to Nigeria. Okay, this is coming for the second time on the paper. I feel like president is let me not comment on that, but you want to find out more about that by getting yourself the Tribune newspaper. President suddenly picks interest in Niger Delta. Yeah, well, you want to give us a comment. What do you think about this? Please drop your thoughts, drop your comments right now. If you're following us on YouTube, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, please don't forget to drop your comments. What do you think about the stories? Are you happy with them? As a Nigerian, let's get to hear from you. The next story it says Ambassador Awolowo Dosunmu facilitates Lasisi Olagunji over now honorary fellowship. Okay, Ambassador Awolowo Dosunmu facilitates Lasisi Olagunji over now honorary fellowship. Find out more by getting yourself a copy of the Tribune newspaper. The next story here says, and that is a big story, on page 4, Constitution Review. North pushes for power devolution, resource control, equity. The writer there says, wants elected positions reserved for women. I like this one. Do I like it? Well, I'll have to read more about this to know whether I like it or not. But if you want to find out more, on page 4 of the Tribune newspaper, what elective positions reserved for women? Why women? Why? Okay, when they say elective positions, and that is coming from the North Wishes for Power Devolution Resources. Well, I think it's a good one for the women. Yes, it's a good one. Equity is something that it has come to stay. We're not talking about equality. No, there's a difference between equality and equity. Equity is recognizing people based on their potentials, based on their own strength. So we're not in any kind of competition, but there is room for equity. Everybody, regardless of gender, has something to bring to the table. Yes. So the moment we accept this as a nation, I think inclusivity, including women in our political space and every other space, will help move our nation to the next level. Because women have a lot to offer. Yes, we all have a lot to offer. The man and the woman, a mix of both of them coming together will definitely, bring more development, more progress for our nation. Now, the next story there says, Nigeria still searching for answers to national questions. Of course, the answers have not come. We're not satisfied. We keep asking. And that you find on page 11 of the Tribune newspaper. Nigerians, I'm sure you agree with this one. Have you gotten your answers? If you have, please don't forget to drop a comment. Let's know where you got your answers from, because I think I'm interested in that. Now let's go to the next story on page 8. It says, military arrest terrorists, gun runners in Kaduna. And there's a writer there that says, as police falls bandit attack, kill one in Benue. Okay. Military arrest terrorist gunners in Kaduna. My big question is, we don't get to see these people that are arrested. Like, we don't get to hear the end of the story. Somehow we just hear bandits have been arrested, but we don't follow through. Or is it that they don't give us the story, the latest, the details of whatever it is that happens along the line? Because this is like the 100th time I'm hearing, bandits being arrested, terrorists being arrested, but we don't get to see what happens, at the end of the day. We need more accountability in the system, please. You want to find out more about that story by getting yourself a copy of the Tribune newspaper, and that very story is particularly on page 5. Now let's go to the next one, and that is on page 6. Anglican churches give clerics guidelines for hosting politicians during services. Now this is long overdue, I think so. Yeah. The church shouldn't be a place to campaign for votes. People should be allowed to, exercise their rights, their voters' rights. By the time a pastor begins to give a politician the space to come to campaign in the church, I mean, somehow you're trying to twist the minds kind of your congregation. That way they would want to do things that the pastor wants. So please, I don't think that this should only apply to Anglican churches. All churches, in short, all worship centers, church, mosques, everywhere, people should be allowed to vote based on their interest. No pastor, no imam should cajole people to vote. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's democracy, right? People have their desires. People have who they want in power. So allow them to exercise their, franchise. Let's go to the next story. We want to find out more about that story on page 6 of the Tribune newspaper. Now let's go to the next story, and that is still on page 6. Osun PDP pledges support for Adeleke, ready to align with his future decision. These politicians can be very dramatic, if you ask me. What is there to come out to say, this is what I want to do? Why do you have to beat around the bush? Most times I wonder why. Well, at the end of the day, they say it's politics. You have to today you say this, tomorrow you say this. You just play with people's minds back and forth, up and down, here and there. I mean, is there any for all of this? Maybe, just maybe, he's trying to align well with his counterpart and every person in his circle, so that the explanation can be well received. I don't know, but that's my opinion. But in all honesty, I don't know why these politicians just, go around being, I don't know. So let's leave it at that. Let's go to the next story. You want to find out more about that? I'm going to a copy of the Tribune newspaper. The next story here says, Lagos local government election records low turnout. Again, this is repeating, and that's on page 5. Sanwo-Olu, Hamzat, all those comments, Lysiak over smooth exercise. Why wouldn't it be smooth? I mean, low turnout, please, Nigerians. We can't afford to do this. We can't afford to do this come 2027 and other elections that come before then. Let us put ourselves together and go out there and exercise our franchise. It is your civic responsibility. It is your right. Okay, so let's go to the next story there, and that is coming on page 19. 2027 elections, how ADC proponents can achieve results. Prince Will, that is coming from Prince Will, and there is a writer that says opposition coalition healthy for democracy. Okay, we saw this on one of the papers, and that is coming from Gbajabiamila. Okay, Gbajabiamila is in support of the coalition, and a lot of Nigerians have also shown support for that coalition. They feel like it's hope. Let us hope that our hopes are not dashed. Okay, the next story. Oh no, sorry, we're done with the Tribune news, but let's go to the next paper, and that is the Sunday Times. The big story here is coming from our very own Rita Dominic Anosike. So Dominic is celebrating her 50th birthday. Rita Dominic, our Nollywood queen, turned 50 July 12th. I think yesterday, yes, she wowed us with angelic white photos on Instagram and kept it heartfelt. For health, for life, God did. I think that was a caption. Celebrity friends like Mo Abudu and Dakore Akande are all in a beautiful milestone for a woman who has given us iconic roles like, Clara in the Meeting and so much more. Rita Dominic is one actress that I respect so much. Okay, there is another story there that says offensive operations against terrorists yielding results, and that is coming from the HQ. The news is also the Times, has Rita Dominic all over the place. I think she's worth celebrating. You want to get yourself a copy of the Sunday Times to find out details about. I'm sure there are other stories there, of course, that you would like to see, but they're not on the front page right now. So let's go to the next story, and it's coming. This is from the Weekend Trust. The Weekend Trust. The first story there says, rat infestation. Rat infestation claimed as Villa was covered for which story is this? Is this real? Is this real? Oh my goodness. Rat infestation claimed as Villa was covered for Buhari's illness. That is coming from, okay, I think that's coming from Garbashehu. I don't understand. Are we saying that? Well, if you want to find out more about that, or getting yourself a copy of the Weekend Trust, there are some things you don't comment on. I'll get to read more about that. I'm sure to do. I'm as curious as you are. Let's get to see what they have to say there. Let's go to the next story. It says Plateau court remand 20 suspects accused of killing wedding guests, and that is on page 20. That's serious. That is serious. Furthermore, by getting yourself a copy of the Weekend Trust, and on page 12, it's on 2027. More governors eye the Senate. How do they know this? Who gets all this stuff? Who confirms all these rumors? Who confirms all these stories and says this is it? We need to find out. I'm sure they'll tell us more on page 12 of the Weekend Trust. The big story there says ahead neck APC Dango's chairmanship between North Central and North West. Who will emerge as the chairman of the APC? our fingers crossed as we see who will emerge. You want to find out more about that on page 4 of the Weekend Trust. Will it be the North Central? Will it be the Northwest? Well, let's see how that unfolds. Our next story is on page 17. That is Our Lives as Police Pensioners. Our Lives as Police Pensioners. Okay, I don't think that would be a very sweet one. It already sounds like a sad story. Well, I mean, you can find out more by getting yourself a copy of the Weekend Trust. The next story, that is on page 20. NNPCL considering sale of refineries. Ojulari. NNPCL considering sale of refineries. Like, what is happening? Are you trying to tell me that as a nation we cannot revive our oil sector and make it function? What is so difficult for the government to, put NNPCL together and make it work? Nigeria, an oil producing country, this is really disappointing and sad. In my opinion, why do we have to sell it? Like, why? Maybe the sale of it would make it work, but I don't think it's something that is so difficult for the government to handle. But I mean, it is what it is. Let's go to the next story on page 41. It says bandit kills 7 passengers, abduct other along Zamfara Road. Bandit kills 7 passengers, abduct others. The issue of insecurity every day, every single day. Do we have to hear the stories every day? This is really sad. It's so sad. I mean, when will this become a thing of the past? When will this become a thing of the past? You travel along the road and you're not safe you're not sure of your life. You're just in panic. This is really sad. We want to find out more about that by getting yourself a copy of the Weekend Trust newspaper. We pray that the souls that were lost rest in peace and that all of this comes to an end in no time. Let's go to the next story, and that's the Guardian Weekend. The first story there says why Sokoto lawmakers become chief promoters of Aliu's second term. That is coming from Bala Bolinga. The next story says Idou's echoes of innocence unites ABSA Alliance franchise. That's on page 15. The big story here says hurdles before APC coalition as Nigerians weigh option. I think Global Television did something on that recently. Went to the streets of Abuja to get the opinion of Nigerians, and a lot of people were, happy with the coalition. Some were of the opinion that it will not be possible for the APC, for the ADC to defeat APC come 2027. But you want to find out more about this, or you want to see the opinions that this paper has put together, and that you will find on page 8 and 9 of the Guardian newspaper. Another story here says NGE holds 3rd Latif Jakande Memorial Lecture, July 23, and that you find on page 44 of the Guardian newspaper. Next story here says Shettima dismisses alleged rift with Tinubu, decries misrepresentation of remarks. That you'll find on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper. The next story here says Tinubu backs AFLIMA 2025 as FG inaugurates LOC. Minister pledges partnership with Lagos. And let's go to the next story there that says Academy of Letters inducts Obi of Onitsha, 2 journalists as honorary fellows. Congratulations to all of them. That you'll find on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Interesting stories, right? There's a lot happening around you. Please, you need to open your eyes and be part of what is going on around you. It's either you're actively part of it. You can't be passive in this time and age. No. If you want our country to work, everyone has to lend a voice. Let us hear what your opinion is by dropping us your comments on our social media handles at Global TV NG on any of the socials this morning. Let's go to the next story there, and that is coming from the Punch Sports Extra. Okay, so I like sports. I like sports so much. I'm not actively a sports person, but I like to exercise, right? Because it keeps one healthy. And I've come to realize that the more intentional you are with your health, the longer you live, right? That's what they say. And the healthier you are, the younger you are. So sports is not something that any of you should joke with. If you are passive on sports, please, I want you to turn a new leaf today and be active. You can be active by listening, and the more you listen, the more you want to exercise. You want to participate in whatever it is you listen to. Now let's see what's Punch Sports Extra. What is punchy this morning on sports? The first, for my sports lovers, the first story here says, Osimhen not open to Saudi move as Al Hilal offers £75 million. Next story, new battles, Parisans for CWC trophy. That you will find on page 8 of the Punch Sports Extra. The next story here says Deco obstacle to Rashford switch. That's on page 6. Beg your pardon, page 5. And the next story here says Onana to miss start of 2025-2026 season. That's on page 4 of the Punch newspaper. My next story here says Madrid to make Mbappe Vini decision. That you'll find on page 8. The next one says Tunisia battle Botswana to revive hopes on page 2. Early Ruse missed chances. Early's Ruse missed chances. That's on page 2. And still on the Punch, Junior the Tigress turned China in World Cup opener, and that is on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. On page 6 we have Ajayi Akintola shines in European meets. Interesting. The big story here says Nigeria versus Algeria. Venue Stade Lebi Zoli. Time 8 p.m. Eyes on target. Falcons seek perfection in final group clash against the Foxes. I mean, if you don't do anything sports, you should support Nigeria in whatever match that you see them participate in. So let's support our own, yes, and we hope that they emerge victorious, in this competition. Let's go to the next story here. It says Iwobi hails flying eagles teens are rearing. Iwobi hails flying eagles teen are rearing. And that is on page 6. And finally on page 8, Switex annihilates Amisomova to win Wimbledon title. And that is on page 8. Okay, there's a final one here that says football betting tips and codes. Okay, on page 7. Okay, it's been an interesting discussion, conversation, enlightening, insightful. That's all I can say. Global Morning has been, a blast for me this morning. I don't know about you, I'm sure yes, of course. Have you been inspired? I want to leave you with this tip. Now, leadership starts from the top, yes, but the real change starts with all of us. Be active, don't be passive. Yes, be an observer, do not be passive. I'm Priscilla, and it's been Global Morning. I want you to go out there, stay informed, and keep asking the right questions. Now, Global Television has lots of programs ahead for you to enjoy today. Make sure you stay glued. Make sure you don't go anywhere. Make sure you tell somebody to tune in to Global Television. Until we come your way again tomorrow on Global Morning, stay, have a beautiful and amazing day. Good morning.